but he's not always out there all the time. We do have people report back to us, shoot the trail, take a tree down. Things like that. Any work we have to do in here first, we do it first. And just has to look through it first too. Make sure we're not going to do anything. So yeah, to do anything in here is quite a process. You want to respect the law too. That's part of why we're doing this system. To build respect. Cooperation. We want to reduce people trespassing on property. Yeah, and that hurts us too because it's like you say, like 99% of the time, 99.9 is not one of our club members. It's somebody else because we're the club.
So now this map.
Yeah, if you go on. Yeah. Well, by having it signed, by having it visiting, this will be signed. So this is the trail, stay on trail. Because right now there's nothing being done. We're trying to do something.
Okay, everybody, we're kind of sitting at about 7:05, so I figured we might as well get started. So my name is Rachel Andrews, and I'm from the Cypress Planning District. We're working with the Westman ATV Club or Association to put on this open house for informational purposes. Just trying to get as much information kind of disseminated into the community as possible. So this is about the ATV trail as well as the association itself. Just again promoting it and the trail to the community. So again, this is Crownlands Trail, which is being proposed by the Westman ATV Club, and we've got representation from the board here to further discuss the proposed trail as well as any potential comments or concerns from adjacent landowners and community members. So with that, I'll pass it over to Chad, and you can kind of do intros for the table.
Okay, I'm Chad Finley. I'm the president of Westman ATV. Thank you all for coming. Hopefully we can have some good conversations here and go from there. This is Tyrus Todd. He's our vice president. We've got Carly Jane. She is our treasurer, or secretary, sorry. And we got Coralie in the end here. She's the treasurer. So we have a PowerPoint set up here with some information on it. And those handouts. Like I was telling some people over on this side here, I didn't get this talk to all of you yet, but those maps are slightly out of date. The most up-to-date one is on the table there. Yeah, and we'll go through the PowerPoint here, and if you have any questions afterwards, you can feel free to come talk to one of us, and we'll definitely do our best to answer your questions. And if it's a question that requires a little more conversation, we can get back to you on it. So. But we will take down your concerns, because we want to make this benefit to the community. We hope you can see that it will provide some structure. I know we can't control all the wild ones that like to go off trail, but we're doing our best to try and organize it best we can. And through monitoring and signing the trails, and having no trespassing signs and stuff. Trying to make an effort to decrease that, because we know we've heard a lot of issues of that happening in this area, so that's kind of why we want to do this, because we all ride these trails and we want to see them stay open. We don't want to have them closed because the 1% of riders are being disrespectful. So we really want to work with you guys, find some compromises here and there if we can, and make this something that will benefit you all.
So I had kind of set up the PowerPoint, kind of expecting just to kind of run it in the background. Now, if there was something in particular, especially with the number of people here, I kind of like to get through some open dialogue between the Westman ATV Association and everyone here. I'm a little worried about time that we might run over, or we might not all have a chance to have a chance to speak if we kind of go through the PowerPoint slide by slide. So now it all depends on what you guys want to do. If you'd like to run through the slides, we definitely can. If not, it's probably best to kind of just start that open dialogue. Because again, there's a lot of people in the room, and we want to make sure everyone's got a chance to really get into a good conversation about the proposed trail. Do you guys want to run through the slides slide by slide?
I think we
How about you name one good benefit of that trail?
One good benefit we're hoping for is
Why hoping? One good benefit, not hoping. What's a good benefit?
A good benefit is having it signed and designated, so we can maintain it. So we can maintain it, and
So how has it been there for 25 years? Never been maintained, never been signed, always been fine. Since you guys showed up 2 years ago, it's a friggin' mess. There's garbage everywhere, we're constantly picking it up. Yes, it is. You don't go out there, I'm out there 3 days a week, I live across the road. It's a mess. I see zero.
I know as a club, when we go out riding, we take that opportunity, we all take garbage bags with us, we all
So
clean up
how
the
is it
mess.
helping? Like,
It might not be us making the
Yeah,
mess,
no,
it
but
could be
your
other
ad
people.
with the trails everywhere. It's on the internet. Go on Facebook, you got 1,000+ followers, or you just Google it. And they're showing up, I had guys from Saskatchewan out there. You guys, they're not part of your club. When the fire started a year ago, there was 4 guys from Vernon came out there that morning. You know, they got it offline. So how is this helping us?
You promoting it is bringing in people not from here.
And
We've
not
been
part of your
riding
club.
over 20 years without an issue. Now there's an issue.
Yeah, well, and I think part of that too is, like, I'm not saying that it's not, there will be some that are disrespectful, but we're a club, we promote respectful riding, like, we're out there.
Yeah, but it's 100% coming from your advertising of that trail.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
you
but
can't
you
control
can
who
go
comes
on
in
Google
there.
Earth, you can see these trails, like,
Yeah, I know, but you're advertising it, you can go on and get the coordinates.
yeah, and
Let's
we're,
stop it.
yeah, and we're hoping that,
It's not. Are you going to move out there and police it the whole time?
well, we're monitoring it. like,
No. Are you
recording,
going to be there? How often are you there?
Or we're,
How often are you there?
well, I'd say we got guys that are at least.
No, you. Somebody come on. How often?
We always have members that
How
are
often?
representative. I know people that are out there every couple days. I know some people just go out on a weekend because they work Monday to Friday, so they can't afford to go out in the evening, say, riding. Because we try not to promote night riding as well, because it's not safe. It's not safe for riders, it's not safe for walkers.
And there is like, the last few years, there's been an explosion of, like, the pandemic, you know, people's explosion of ATVs purchased. And people who buy ATVs, they see a trail like this, they don't know where to go, where they can't go. So by having a map saying this is the designated trail, these are some side trails that aren't maintained, stay out of these areas, we're trying to reduce the risks, or the reasons for people to be where they shouldn't be, right?
And you guys that just bought the new quad, they're looking for mud, they're looking for hills, they're off the trails.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to keep.
Well, and it's not going to work because you're not there unless you're taking them around as a guided tour. It doesn't work.
You know, when we do club rides out there, show people like where the
No,
trails
I
are.
don't care for the club rides. I'm talking to guys that are showing up and just going out there, they're taking their maps offline, showing up and going. They're the ones cutting Jeff's fence. They're the ones that are into everything. You know,
But there was people doing that before we were ever.
not near to the degree it is today. It's way worse.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Why, you know, we've been riding for 20, 25 years
Right.
before you guys came.
Right.
What gives you guys the right, or you think that you get to control everything? We all have been able to ride safely, control ourselves, everything else out there, but now you suddenly come in and you have to control it. Like, why?
It's
Why
not,
do you
we're
have
not
to?
restricted to control, like, these trails aren't restricted. Like, you don't have to be a member to ride our trail.
Why can't you just go ride? If you want to bring somebody, some family, friends, have your family day, why can't you do that? Why do you have to have all this nonsense that you're doing and spoil it for those of us in the area that have been here most of our lives?
How are we spoiling it?
The noise, the dirt, the garbage.
The cut fences.
You might pick the garbage up that's on the trail. You're not picking it up that's getting thrown on our property.
Our property, because I did that, and I'm talking the black garbage bag full, every there's coolers, there's beer cans, there's cooler cans, there's marijuana tins, I pick it up. There's sandwich wrappers, there's Tim Hortons stuff, and I pick all that up off of our property.
Maybe
Even though the map says, the map there says it's crown land, it's not crown land, it's our property.
Can you show me after the meeting here, like, where your property is, so I can, check into that?
So we can back
Oh,
us
yeah.
again under the FI.
Yes, sir.
Just wondering, the map, the trail map that you have there, I've heard that it's still proposed trail, is that correct?
So that,
Or is it an actual, past all the government checks and balances to have
yeah,
that
so
trail?
we have passed all of our checks and balances to the government for the stuff in the yellow.
Okay.
And I can point that out on the map there. What we're trying to establish now is a designated spot to unload, so people aren't unloading all over the place. And we'll have, so the unload spot, we'll have a sign there saying, this is the trail, stay on trail, and have all of our, warnings and stuff on there. But with the map, and areas like not stay out of this area, that sort of thing. We've also been talking about having a fire risk sign there too, just so we can stay up to date with fire risks. And work with conservation on that, so if fire is high, we can say fire is high. If there's a travel ban, in addition to the roadblocks that put up, we'll also put a sign there saying, travel ban in this area, stay out.
So are you going to talk about your phase 2 and phase 3
What's that,
proposals tonight?
Phase 2 and phase 3, no, that's been kind of, we're not going to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
good. Yeah, but one of my concerns is when you have the trail system on the crown land like it is, or on the parkland, I guess you call it, Spruce Woods Forest, it is better than on regular crown land that's leased by farmers and stuff.
Right.
But one of my concerns, huge concerns, is the quads and side-by-sides that squirt out and come down all the gravel roads where they have to go get gas or go get a chocolate bar or whatever they're getting. Often they do donuts. I can show pictures of just yesterday. There was a bunch of donuts just by my place on the road there. And also they seem to take up all of the road. So that's a huge concern for me. About a week and a half ago, I almost killed 2 side-by-side drivers and members because they come up over a hill and they were side-by-side each on the road. And there's nowhere for me to go, right?
Yeah.
I pay insurance to drive on the gravel, whereas a side-by-side or an ATV should be an off-road vehicle, at least either driving in the ditch or driving at least slowly on the side of the road, like on a shoulder, we call it, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that people that maybe don't live in the community or live in the municipality that ride out there consider the roads as part of their trail system, which is incorrect. It costs the municipality a lot of money for extra grading to get those ruts out of the roads and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's what we want to prevent, by just education. On our Facebook site, like you said, we have 1,000 followers. We post a lot of safety videos on there. We do report things like our sign being broken or whatever. People breaking fences, that's reported. We want, because that comes back on us, right? Even though it's not us.
Well, we don't know. It might have been, it might have been part of your group. We don't know, right?
But yeah,
unless you can stop them
Yeah.
and talk to them at the time of the incident, it's hard to say who it was.
Yeah, and we want those guys reported because that's obviously, like I said, dangerous. And we're trying to promote respectful riding and stuff. So, yes, sir.
So there was a study done back in the 70s where there was 21 native grasses and 27 native flowers that are just to this local area. So I wonder if the environmental groups have been contacted about the trail that's going in.
So there is an environmentalist with the government that we've taken through there. She didn't have any issues with staying on the trail. That was a key factor. She didn't want anybody going off the trail.
We know that's not true for staying on the trail because they came on our property and dug out our little cactuses that were on the hills.
Yeah, so that's...
And they ripped my signs off that said no trespassing, do not enter.
Again, when we're done here, can we point out your areas so I can look into that?
No, I'm just right against the trail there. Yeah.
Okay.
I may weigh in here.
Yeah.
I'm a livestock producer in the area, and I think I share a lot of concerns here. There's a lot of land there that's crown lease land. I'm fairly close to the area. My biggest concern here is fire risk. Not long ago, like last year, the Shiloh Ranges come under fire, and I had to evacuate and move all my cattle out and everything, and I was offered no support for that. So my question is, who's paying me when your ATVs are blamed for a fire, and I got to move all my cattle out and leave my property?
Right, that's a good question.
Thing here needs to be considered as the well-being of the livestock that's on the crown land. Are the people within your club aware of cattle? They come from cities. It's like, it's dangerous too, right? Those cattle are on, trails there, they're supposed to be that. Down there, through their cut, they don't need to be woken up by bikes and stuff.
No, I appreciate that answer. Yeah, I grew up on a PFA pasture, so I know what it's like.
Yeah. It's fairly frustrating too, gates are left open, fences are cut. I'm not gonna point fingers, but,
No,
there's a serious safety concern though for fire. That's my biggest concern.
okay, I'll try and address your question. If there's something, feel free to remind me. So I'll start with the fire.
Yeah.
So we do have a report from that fire. We've been told it was caused by someone target practicing. But regardless, our club, we carry fire extinguishers with us when we go on rides. We promote that to everyone, like on our website and stuff. We say Facebook
I
site.
guess my main question here is who's paying when I have to evacuate and it damages my property? I want to know.
Okay, can I get your information and get back to you on that? Because I don't think I'm sorry. That's a very good question.
Just one quick question. How many members do you have?
Currently, we have 27.
So 27.
And some of them are families, so it'll be a mom, dad, a couple of children, or something like that. In total for people, we're at about 63.
So 27 people are paying dues?
So there's 27 memberships, some are single, so it's just one person, and most of the variety of our memberships are family memberships.
So the maps are going out to over 1,000 people on the modest end, but only 27 people are paying to use
Well, we're
it.
currently in the middle of renewing our memberships. On average, we have about 50 to 60 memberships. So all those people obviously know our trails because they've come out on at least one ride. When it comes to that, when people sign up for a membership with the club, that's how they get all their information is through our Facebook page. So all the maps
But I
is
could
there.
join it too and not be a member.
Yes.
So
So you can get the
everything that you
information of everything that's
present
going on.
on your social media, everything you present is available to the general public.
Yeah, that's the same with like ATV Manitoba. So this is an ATV Manitoba trail that our club looks after.
So I guess my point goes back to Larry. What is the actual benefit to this community for those trails having your signs on them when there's an environmental impact, there's a historical impact, and there is a lot of frustration from the people that don't want to share the trails.
Right.
And now, if 10% of the people that are using your trail system actually pay, you're a very small representation of what ethical and proper conduct on the trails is, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's why we use our Facebook page too, is promote that riding. Because we know one-on-one we can't talk to everyone, right? So by putting on our Facebook page, social media is big. It gets around, so there's 1,000 people on our page, but they might share it with someone else, right? So
then
by saying
10% of 10,000 people that are causing problems is a much bigger number than 10% of 100 people,
yeah,
correct?
So people are gonna ride in there whether we're in there or not.
Right.
And so we're just trying to make an effort to
So what is the
not restrict
benefit?
access, but monitor,
What is
maintain,
the
organize.
benefit then?
Just by having it organized, having some accountability in there, like by having
No, you're promoting something we don't want. That's not a benefit.
When you have 27 club members, which you're saying you have, and then on the high side you have 60, okay, let's let it be 30. You have 30 people, where do they park? You said on the north side you're going to cross the highway and drive down the ditches. So 30 quads, let's cut that in half even further, 15 quads, down the ditch. You tell me that's not an impact to the environment?
They're getting ridden anyways, whether it's our club riding them or just the regular
right
old
now you
Joes,
have-
so.
You have young members, like you guys that live out there, I'm also one of them, driving maybe once a month in the ditch, going over the power lines, enjoying it. Now you're coming along the 15 quads, 10 feet apart. how is not, how do you explain that's not environmental impact to this road surface you're driving on? Every hoof you approach, you make it wider and longer and more aggressive for the next person to ride over. So you're creating also, I think, how you rectify that?
So we have, so I'll just start with saying that, like I said earlier, that there's been a ton of plots sold in the last couple of years. So whether or not,
It's not relevant.
It's not.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if we have the trail or not. There's people that are coming
But there
out
will be
there.
hordes of people coming out. If you guys were
Right now, but you guys are promoting it. How does that to understand? It's frustrating.
So just an FYI, there was over 25,000 ATVs sold in Manitoba last year alone. Out of that 25,000, the percentages were broken down. There was over 15,000 sold in Western Manitoba alone. So you take 15,000. Some of them don't even come out. They're Shiloh people. There's people that live here in the military.
like our map, this is the only map that's out there. If you look on back road maps, it's on there. It's so, and to adjust your question again, like you said, the whoops and stuff, addressing the road surface, like on the trail, that's why.
So what you're saying is you're going to boom the trail like they do for the snowmobiles?
Well, we have machines that we can. So we have sponsorships with people like that. No, so to do any trail maintenance like that, we have first get approval. We have approval through historical, approval through Crown lands. So we can't just go and, bulldoze and stuff. We have to get approval first. And we try and do as minimal surface damage as we can when we're doing maintenance. There's been talks about putting rock in some of the mud holes and stuff to give them bottom.
Try to stop people from carrying it all
Yeah,
over.
so we want to work, the thing is, we want
For 27 members.
we want some back and forth like this to get your concerns and your ideas and try to find ways that you can make them work.
The lady over here.
Why is the map being shared outside of your club? Is there something requiring you to do that within your greater organization? Would it not?
Actually, no,
Yeah.
it's not. It's just when we first started, we only had about 20 people on that page.
Yeah.
But then, I share with him, he shares with him, he shares with her.
Can you not restrict it now? I mean, I know it's out there, but it's still on your Facebook page, right?
Yes.
You know
It's the same with
extra people are accessing it. Why is it still there?
It's the same with ATV in Manitoba, all the trails out east, anybody can access download those maps.
But it's clearly a problem here, so why is it still there?
Would it justify you guys in some point to pull down that map and only share it with members?
It shouldn't be shared with anybody unless you pay them. Like shoot yourselves in the foot anyways.
That is why you guys like to see.
Would you like to see that though? Because we could, and we're willing to work with you guys, that's why we came. So we can pull it off of our Facebook page, and when people sign up for memberships, I usually do them up, I just throw a map in that envelope and send it to the person, say, this is our map, if you have questions, please
But it's
contact.
not your map, is it? This
It's
is
our
only-
club map.
No, this is a proposal. This is not your trail.
We actually have
As
the trail
yet.
right now, everything in yellow is ours,
Is
our
yours.
club's designated trail.
It is
And in
technically
what-
designated as a Crown land permitted trail.
By who?
By Crown lands.
No,
It's a
to
general
who?
permit to
To
the
who?
Westman ATV Association through ATV Manitoba, who is the governing body of all associations within Manitoba.
And in what way did you acquire that?
It is granted as a Crown land general permit through the province.
To whom?
The ATV Association for the designated trail, which is covered through the club's individual third-party liability
Well, then you
insurance.
should have got the province to ask
So I
of Carberry and the
consulted
people what they're for.
the Crown landowners and livestock producers in the area that have the Crown leases on that land.
So
Why was the government, why did the provincial
That falls
government not
out
consult these
of
people?
Cypress Planning District jurisdiction, but from my understanding, being a Crown land permit, and again, this is a general permit issued through Crown lands, that is their jurisdiction to notify. That is not our jurisdiction to notify. We have no jurisdiction in Crown land. At this point in time, it is for informational purposes to, again, get this type of dialogue, but if you have concerns with Crown land, that is a discussion that needs to be dealt with at that level. And unfortunately, we don't have representation here from that government organization. And now again, I had asked for that specific question on who handles that issue, because As a livestock producer myself, I can appreciate where you're coming from. Now, with that being said, this is granted through a different through a different provincial governing body. Therefore, those notification processes don't happen within the ATV Association or the planning district or the municipality.
Is there a representative not here from the Crown Land?
So I had asked for representation from a series of stakeholders, and unfortunately there has been a change with the member who sits in that position for this local area, and I was unable to get someone to cover. With that being said, one of the main reasons why I had asked for people to fill in those comments and concerns is the representation for Crown Lands, knowing that we would have major concerns from community members, has asked that any concern that is brought forth, be cattle or livestock or Crown Lands related, that those questions and comments be sent to him directly so that he can work through and provide comment and some sort of community dialogue with him. Because again, not from the area, I'm not actually sure where he's from or what region he covers, but again, knowing that we had those types of concerns, that was something that I definitely wanted to have available for tonight. So,
my biggest concern here is that your club has 27 members. For instance, like the Dane subdivision is pretty close there to having a fire go through there. There's millions and millions of dollars of houses in there. How could you ever get the financial backing or liability to ever cover a loss like that? If your bikes on your club ever cause damage like that, especially on like, you take for instance when you start burning equipment up, there's tractors, it doesn't take long to spend $1 million.
So we do have $5 million liability insurance through ATV Manitoba.
That would hardly cover my yard.
Yeah. No, that's a fair question.
Wouldn't cover my yard, and that's right beside where you're planning to go. You know, the area that you're in, do you know how delicate it actually is? And back in the 30s, that area was cut for firewood. In the 1930s, you know how long ago that is? It's 100 years ago. And those pitch roads that you're going around, you know when they were made? 100 years ago. Now, the damage that you plan to do, that will be done with quads, and don't tell me there's not damage, because I can show you damage in our place. Who's going to recover that? In the 30s, we didn't have money to recover all the damage that those slaves made. Do you have money set aside to repair the damage? And what about the fires? Do you not figure we're not going to set a fire? You get that forest reserve on fire and have a bit of a west wind between Danny and myself, there isn't a chance that you're going to put the fire out. And we're not talking cost. We're talking, that's where we've lived all our life. We have trees that are planted there. And I don't know what your yard looks like, but if somebody came with a chainsaw and knocked all the trees down and cut all the shrubs out of your yard, how would you feel? Has anybody looked into that aspect?
Yeah, so like we work with conservation, any travel bans, restrictions like that, we put them up on the Facebook page right away. Like I said, we carry fire extinguishers to make sure our machines are clean.
You just had a whole pile of rain and I could go out in that forest dirt to start a fire in 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that's,
it's going to happen. It is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
The fire department, look, the Dane division there, I don't know who come good for the pen for the fire extinguished on that deal. There was some buildings that were lost. Was the quad, it was started by a quad?
It was actually started by a target shooting, but we have a report for that, we're trying to get that.
Well, I heard it was started by a quad.
Yes, it was started by target shooting, not by an ATV.
But regardless, like your fire insurance is definitely valid. Like, that's why we try and take any precaution we can. We try to promote fire safety and stuff on our website too, like I said.
That's good. Do you have fire arresters on your exhaust systems?
Yeah, no only quad's not supposed to happen.
Well, that's a plus. At least you're starting with something.
Yeah.
But the chances of something happening are pretty high.
Well, yes, sir, yeah, I definitely agree with you, but yeah. So one thing about having like a sign trail is that if there's a fire, if we're out there, whoever's out there, they can call the fire department. Obviously, you see smoke and stuff, but
you would have a chance.
Cell phones don't work.
But yeah, but it provides access too, right? Like if we're in there, this trail to maintain easier access. Hopefully, we can get cell service and get
how long do you get a water bomber down here?
Oh yeah, and The person in the back, sorry, first, he had his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the back probably when the ATV club was in its inception. I know as a landowner in the immediate area there, I had contacted Crown Lands a few times. I believe Jeff Strain had contacted them as well. I remember a few years ago Jeff and I were talking about it. Contacting Crown Lands in Manitoba and voicing our concerns at that time. And I'm not sure whether it just fell on deaf ears or didn't go any further. So I'm not sure whether the province of Manitoba or the Crown Lands of Manitoba had a bit of a drop the ball on getting this sort of a group together 5 or 6 years ago or whenever the club started, you know what I mean?
Right. That's, I can look into that. I know there's been a lot of restructuring in the government, so to be honest, I'm not sure what happened there. So. But we did, so when we were applying for this general permit, we had to create a integrated resource management team, some fancy government wording for just getting all the government departments in the area together. And then, so our trail, that's in yellow there, had to get passed through all these different departments. They all had comments on it, and then it got circulated back to us, and we had to do like get permits for this or get this study, like the historical resources impact assessments done, all these different studies and stuff, and then it came back to us. So they had about 7 or 8 requirements we have to fill out and fulfill. So we went through all that, and then that's how we got the permit. So it was circulated through all the departments, but I don't know if maybe they just didn't have your comments on it.
Yeah, for sure they would.
I'd like to point out that the Carberry sandhills are a particularly unique landscape within Canada, and they're extremely fragile because it's sand. So every time a tracked vehicle goes over that sand, it breaks through the surface, and then we have introduced noxious weeds in this area that travel very easily through sand and broken surfaces. All we have to do is drive down number 1 highway to see the damage that tracked vehicles have already done on the north side in the forest reserve. My property runs alongside that forest reserve, and the damage that has been already done is atrocious and actually almost criminal. I looked at this area as a gift. I treasure living in this area because of its uniqueness, the landscape, the plants, the animals, and all the creatures that live here are unique. Having tracked vehicles, ripping things up, and I understand that maybe you guys are trying to do everything up and up, but there's just way too many others that follow you and who don't. And the damage is irreparable, and I don't see the ATVers out there trying to control leafy spurge as it moves its way along the tracks you guys make. And I really resent that they even allowed you to have access into that area at all, because that is one of the few remaining areas left in this supposedly really wonderful place that has native landscape left. And here they are allowing vehicles that can create so much damage into that area. So first of all, I resent that they've done that. I think it was a really poor way to allow that land to be utilized. So I don't know why they didn't just keep you guys on the north side of number 1 highway and you can continue to do that. But I don't see that you have built into your plan at all. How are you going to prevent environmental damage in this unique area? It's great to go quadding, but why not take a place that's, you know, cultivated field or something, you know, where it's already been done? Why pick a unique, pristine type area to go through? Because what you guys are doing is irreparable.
Okay, that's good.
I live next to that area, and it's a mess back there. And years ago, we used to have all kinds of people coming in there riding horseback for recreation. They're chased out of there, and they'd be crazy to go back in there now. It'd be worth their life to ride a horseback in there.
Especially 2 weeks ago when we were out there was horseback riders out there
Yeah,
riding.
not very
We
damn
stopped,
many.
shut off our machines and let them proceed,
Yeah, maybe
just out of
you-
courtesy, because you respect that.
Maybe you-
Yes.
But not
And I've
everybody.
seen other people out there that are maniacs. I've thrown rocks at those people, because I really don't care. I'm that type of person.
But there's no-
Because I want people to respect what we have before it gets taken away.
Well, that's what I want, I would like that trail closed. That's what I would like, because I am tired of putting up with all the noise and the pollution and the garbage. I'm tired of it. We can't even sit on our back deck and have a conversation on a Sunday afternoon because the noise, we can't hear ourselves. Well, that's ridiculous.
You say
We
that-
pay taxes
You
and
say your machines have spark arresters with a lot of them going, and you're going to hear them echoing in through the bush for half a mile down the trail.
That's another issue we had. We've actually had a couple members join the club, and when they showed up with their ATVs, they didn't have a spark arrestor, where they had an aftermarket muffler that was really loud. We kindly asked them to go and get that reversed and fixed before they're welcome back to our trails. If not, we'll reimburse their membership and they're not welcome here.
Do any of your members have dirt bikes?
No. No, it's all quads and side by sides.
But having said that, that's a good point. We want to talk to the dirt bikers too, because we feel that they don't know like the trails or where they can and can't go, it sounds like. So we'd like to talk to them and see if we can just see what their thoughts are, and if they have an idea of, they're just not listening to people, or they just don't know where they're going, right? So we'd like to get in contact with them just to try and further the educational aspect of things.
Well, we had one fellow on the dirt bike using our approach to our property as a temporary. Just ripping up the sod, you know, like it's no big deal. It's no big deal. But it is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Pride in our property. We spent 30 years getting that property to where it is. And that really annoys us.
Yeah, no, I bet, yeah.
Over here in the back corner.
Back corner there.
Yeah, point. As soon as you make one track, whether it's a trail or just a track, all of a sudden everybody thinks they've got to give away and use that trail. Whether they're a member or not.
Yeah, and that's why we want to keep everybody on the same trail, right? The existing trails, this is all existing trail, our yellow stuff there.
Well, yeah, but they don't stay on the same trail. As soon as you get a rut, they start moving over. They move over here, they move over there, they go over this way, they go over that.
And that's part of our trail maintenance too, right? Like, for us to get too deep. So there's some spots where we have made designated go around, just so that people don't start spaghetti trailing around the hole, right? So.
Snowman group, the trail is up all around through my pasture, private land.
Right.
I have to lock the gates, keep the ATVs, and snowman comes along, cuts the fence, makes the trail through there. And I got city tracks every goddamn direction, there's in pasture, cutting the other gates, going wherever.
Right.
And I ain't gonna be up there when it's 25 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have nothing to do with that.
Same as the ATVs. I hear them phones every weekend, I'm hearing them before, all of them will check gates. Everybody tells me they close the gates. There's always, not always, but last year, holy shit.
Yeah, I know.
Shit hit the fan.
We had issues last year when we were out riding too, that we found gates open, so we second guess sometimes, is it supposed to be open or is it supposed to be closed? Sometimes we're like, okay, if we're unsure it's open when we arrive, we'll close it in hopes that we never did something wrong, thinking there could be cattle or wild stock or whatever in there. And I know that's the respect thing that we try to hold as a club is, guys, remember, these guys work hard every day raising cattle so you can have food on your table. Respect what they're doing, just like respect the trip. Like, I know it's hard, you're always gonna have the bad apples no matter what you do. It could be a show and shine for cars or a show and shine for ATVs or whatever. You're always gonna get the bad ones. That makes the ones who are actually trying hard to show respect, practice responsible riding, teach it to our children on how to properly respect people and whatever. So we're doing the best we can in promoting the respect and trying to promote respect for you guys as well as farmers, as citizens, as people who live in this land.
you get 30 of you guys, you have these maps of thousands of people can see it. How many idiots are in them thousands of people? Exactly.
Oh, I know there's a lot of idiots out there, actually. I've been out. We do a family get-together once a year as a club. We stay the night because we cut the grass, we do everything to get ready. We usually spend the night. And it actually kept my husband and I up for a full night one night for the vehicles, Jeeps, unlicensed vehicles, dirt bikes, out just tearing stuff like crazy. And I understand that, and we're trying to stop it, but like you said, it's open to land.
But you're advertising. That's how people are finding it. It seems to be a beauty.
And we will take the map down and only give it to members if that will make...
Well, it's going to help.
Yes.
Still don't want any.
And we'll do that. Like, I have no issues taking down that map and just sending it to members as they sign up, so it'll only be the select people who pay.
Except for if it's on Westman ATV, how can you police East Province of ATV?
East online. We're talking about ATV in Manitoba. We have to talk to ATV in Manitoba and see if that's possible, and that's definitely something we're looking at.
It shouldn't have to be there. If you guys are going to have to love it, would you pay to get it?
And we can do that. We have no issues going along with that to try to alleviate the amount of people coming out.
Do you guys have any idea how many people are out on the weekend? Seriously?
There's been weekends where we've been out and we've come across a lot of people, like sometimes, and I know it's people from around the area, whether it's Spruce Woods, Cottonwood, Shiloh, Douglas, Carberry, and I've seen groups of like 30. And I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of people out here today because it's a nice day. People got a day off. They want to go have fun with the family. We get that.
Just bad. It's very bad.
If you want to see a mess from your bloody quads, you ought to go look at Jeff's pasture. It's just bloody disgusting. Where they used to drive along fence lines, they can't even drive there with a four-wheel drive anymore from the bloody quads. It's just yellow sand up and down them big hills. And it's just disgusting. And it'd be well worth you people to go there and see what has happened to history.
We'd definitely be willing to go up there.
We're willing to work with everybody to see what we can try to do to help stop this from happening.
Yeah, like put up signs or more like paying more attention to those areas specifically. Like if you want to try and pick the guys to try and like alleviate some of that.
Yeah, but if they're surveying you guys and they're they can't even deal with ones from town driving down the highways and gravel roads, tearing to shut everything. I think there's one game ward in Carberry, and I think the clocks are sticking in Carberry to see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we understand, like, I grew up on a farm, like, I know what you guys, like, I'm not trying to say that we got the perfect solution here, but we're trying to do something, right? Like, we're trying to make an effort, and we definitely understand your guys' concerns, like, the fence cutting and fire risks and stuff. We're really trying to just make an effort to try and catch these guys, to try and, like, have this map so that people can say, okay, I'm here, can't go over here, it's private property or whatever, so I'll stay on this trail, I can go around this way.
You know as well as anybody, if you're on a trail, you can see it veers off of that way. You know, it's very straightforward, because you've done this with
Yeah, but
they're not going to see it.
People who aren't familiar with the area too will do that, right? So we're trying to limit the excuses that someone says if they're in there, we're not important or whatever. I know it'll be tough, and like I said, we don't have a perfect solution, but we're trying, right? Yeah.
Okay, can I make a couple points?
Yeah, sure.
You said you respect the landowners and the communities and all that here. Were anyone in this room, were they consulted about this? Any one of us?
Before the permits.
Before all these permits. You backdoored us through Crown.
No, that wasn't our intent.
Maybe not, but that's what's happened.
Yeah, no,
And that's why we are very upset, because we live here, we understand what the environmental impact of hundreds of quads on the weekends. We see it. We used to go out as a family, just tootle around, look at new things. We quit, 10, 15 years ago? Because we come around the corner and there are 3 or 4 idiots, as hard as they could go coming at us.
I know it wasn't us 15 years
I
ago,
know.
because we've only been
I'm not
around
saying,
for a little bit.
please understand, I respect what you guys are trying to do, but we don't want it, I don't think. There is no benefit for us. You're promoting things that nobody wants. In this area, there's no financial benefit, there's no community benefits. I don't think anybody here belongs to your club. It doesn't make sense to us. When this is the first we hear about it, and we have to pick it up, I don't even know where this meeting was posted. I got it through a friend.
There's 3 days of notification on it. That was that. It came out Monday.
There's a lot more environmental things than the skinks, the prickly cactuses, the crocus beds, and the crown pastures. It's everywhere we are here. And if you make a maintained trail, the first thing you're going to do is speed it up by about 20 to 30K. You know, people get on there, they gotta go. The snowblower is a perfect example. I quit snowmobiling because I couldn't do 70 miles an hour to keep up with people and jump in approaches and all that. But they had a beautiful mile of groomed trail, boy, they could sure move. That makes no sense. And how do you groom sand? I haven't been able to.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
Please stay out of there.
I live north of the highway, and we're right adjacent to that north place where all the spruces are and stuff in there that were planted in the Second World War. And there is like needles 3 and 4 feet deep, and if there was ever a fire started in there, that place would burn for months. And it would destroy not only the environment, visually, and it's the deer in there and everything else. It just is not, and the ruts in there, like they're unbelievable. I walk in there all the time, and I can't believe how it's deteriorated over the last few years. It really is heartbreaking to see it. And that's what's going to happen. And people I know come out from Winnipeg, and 2 years ago they put a fire ban in the park. And they just ripped the tag down and went in, and I phoned, and what do you do? Like, what do you do? If a fire ever starts, they're just going to find some other place to go and do their thing. They don't care. They're not going to have to look at that. And that's what gets me, like, they just walk away. We don't get
So are
to.
you referring to the Wayside Park area?
The one that's on the north side at Camp, well, I think it's called.
Wayside Park. We have no control in that area.
I know you
No,
don't.
but you're promoting this area.
And it's on your map, it circles, the square you have on there, or the association does, takes in that part right down to the bottom Camp side. Look it up on your computer.
I think you're referring to a proposed map that we have.
Yeah, well, it's proposed, that's what you're here for, so you're trying to make.
Well, I'll show you this map after.
Okay. I really don't.
I'll go. I'm sorry.
You first, go ahead.
Who's first?
Oh, you're first.
Well, I've been part of even on my crown land from Camp Hughes, D&D area, High Crossing. Tried to wanted to expropriate my property, wanted all the lines in through there. We used to have tons of cattle in there. We used to find them in Carberry and halfway to Douglas. Fences cut, breeding groups mixed up, lost a complete windmill, gen sets, cattle shot, gates left open, and funny thing, always applaud. Fixing things, and the only up thing I got out of all that one time is fixing the fences, and they left me a damn good jack all jack. So outside of all of the stuff that you're proposing, you haven't got a dime in this. You are asking us to support your ride, which I don't mind. I used to have a dozen of them, but I use them for work. So at this point of the game, you are here to enjoy your life at the expense of ours and destroying our environment. I can't even get cattle trailers down my crown land roads that I used to go on all the time. So we're stopping all of that as much as we can, and will be, just so you know, if you notice, we are not on your side, period. You destroyed, there's archaeological stuff out there, there's pristine hills, and it was before you guys. It didn't matter. You have the same class of people 30 years ago driving around and riding around in the hills as they are today. You just got a little nucleus of people that want to get together, and I encourage it. I support that. I'm not against getting a club together. The rest of these people have destroyed what you are going to do, and you have a black eye, and there's none of us support you. Period. None of us. Thank you.
Nice.
So does any of your trails right now go across leased crown land?
Goes across Carberry, Rodney's.
Okay, because if he's got cattle on there, you have to have permission from him. Right? If he has animal livestock on there, you have to get permission from him to cross.
Right, yeah, we wouldn't be in there.
Right. So all leased crown land needs permission to cross.
Not technically from the leaseholders.
No, no, I just asked the CO, he was just telling me, crown land they can go on. Leased crown land, they have to have permission. If cattle are there.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah. So do we know where the new trailhead's going in?
That's what we're trying to figure out. I can do pull it up on the screen.
I can't access.
There's really no, is that on 88 West?
I can pull up.
Is that 88 West?
88 West, like High Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we just, Rodney had voiced their concerns about that. And so we had discussed with RM about going down the road allowance and going around. So we don't have to go through his area.
So when I build my new retirement home there, I get to watch you guys go by my place like you do right now, where I live.
Would you mind coming up here and just kind of funny? Yes, sir.
I just want to comment, just to reiterate your comment about what Corley had said about the land on the north side of the highway, how you have jurisdiction there or whatever. However, your club does use that because I feel that, if I recall the correct map, you're going to be using that north side of the highway for your poker derby August 26th, correct?
I don't know the details of that, that's Chad's baby, so I can't answer to that.
And again, that seems like a poker derby.
Obviously, we just all got here and this problem has been getting worse and worse over the years. And if the amount of side-by-sides, I think we're sitting here, this problem's got worse and worse over the year, and the booming RV business and all that stuff. I think you got it pretty clear by this crowd, but if groups like you guys could maybe lobby the province and these Crown people that this is something that needs a lot more serious look at, and if they're going to authorize all this shit, then they got to authorize reimbursement and some controls over this too, because, you know, hey, I lived here all my life and I used to enjoy it too, and I still do, but you know, it's not all a bad thing, but the province and these guys can't just say, yeah, go ahead, because it affects everybody in this room.
And I will say that that's why ATV Manitoba was formed. They were formed on the template, I guess you'd say, of Snowman. Like Snowman was forced to be created from the government. ATV Manitoba was trying to be proactive, and they got started out east, and now they're trying to expand and have a template like Snowman. They would have signage is all the same, trails are maintained all the same, like the same specifications and everything.
A lot of rock companies, isn't it? They don't screw everything up.
There's the Sandylands, so Westman ATV and Woodridge Sandbox are in the Sandylands, and it's very similar to the trails around here.
Spruce Woods Park has all the beautiful trails. They're the skidoos. They're already groomed, perfectly cut. They won't allow quads nearby. Why do they not allow quads on those skidoo trails?
That's fair.
Because we all know why.
So why is it okay here then?
For those trails that they allow quads.
I have a question, I guess, for Reeve, and I see a bunch of councillors here too, so I guess we've heard nothing but negative comments in the room tonight, and a couple positives from the group. I guess I'd just like to know where council stands on this and where we're at with it.
Council encouraged this open house and all that stuff. We've been asking questions, and probably because we're on the ground, we knew there was going to be lots of concerns. And the ATV thing, advertising and all that stuff is not helping the situation and all that stuff, but somewhere there has to be some stops and controls on some of this stuff, because you're going in areas that people have lived for their whole lives and all that stuff. And council was trying to get information, and I got to speak both sides. This gentleman's been at our meetings 2 or 3 times, and we have no jurisdiction over any of this. But I think council asked them to have this open house, and congratulations and thank you for doing it. That's all, really what council has to do with it.
Yeah, as a councillor in the area, the province obviously has jurisdiction over that wildlife management area that they are using. Council has expressed not interest in the ATVs using the road allowance, any of the road allowances, because as soon as you give them some sort of small leeway on one road allowance, they will use all the roads, because that's a road allowance. So even an unmaintained road allowance, we haven't given permission for them to use that. So that's part of our stance. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
So they're not allowed on unmaintained road level?
We have not ever given them permission. The trouble is there isn't road allowances in there where the club's trail is. Like there's no road allowances in there where their specific trail is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. Where your specific trail is a Manitoba jurisdiction, and there's no road allowances that the specific trail uses.
The trail's right beside our property, right between Campus, Wayside Park and our property, is not a road allowance?
I'm not sure. I would have to look at the map. However, that is not one of their designated trails, correct?
No, that's not our.
I realize that, but any ATVers, like if you're using your ATV for work to go and check your cattle down the road allowance, that would be a permitted use.
Right.
To use your ATV on a gravel road, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a police officer here, you cannot drive an ATV down a gravel road because it's an off-road vehicle.
Under the Off-Road Vehicles Act, you can't go down a maintained road. The only way that an ATV can have anything to do with the road is if they cross it at a 90-degree angle and then go back into the ditch. It's written right in the legislation.
Yeah. So that's why council has not approved ATVs on road allowances, because if you approve an ATV on an unmaintained road allowance, say it's bush, then as soon as you make those words, somebody can argue, well, this is road allowance, that gravel road's a road allowance, I can drive on the gravel road, right? And that's not what we want, because that's dangerous. If there's ATVs driving on the gravel road, I can guarantee you I've almost killed lots of people on ATVs going home at the end of the night or whatever. Because there's a hill there and it's super dangerous. So I feel that people with automobiles, trucks and cars pay insurance from MBI to drive on the road, and ATVs should respect that as an off-road vehicle.
Yeah, all ATVs are supposed to be insured around the trails.
One thing the council has done is not approved request from this club to be able to drive on roads. Correct?
Yeah, it would have to be worded, like you said, like it was approved, like this specific section, it would be very clearly stated that was the permitted area, but yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you guys have cleanup crews that go in once every 2 weeks or once a month?
Whenever we arrive, Greg back, the garbage bag with us and pick up stuff and you see it, so.
That's good.
I mean, we try to do, so we do have a section of highway cleanup that goes along the 251 and also the Veterans Highway. So we're trying to do two highway cleanups a year. Spring's been really busy, I'll be honest, and we haven't been out there yet. We've had some scheduled, but rain and stuff and and things like that. So what we do, we're planning on getting out there as soon as we can to clean up. So the corner by the Wayside Park is, as you guys know, is very full of garbage. People come off the number one and they jump their whatever they got or deal out the window, it seems. So we do try and clean that up. And like I said, when we're on the trail, we can pick up garbage. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My problem with your whole situation you have is, regardless of whether you bring quads or side-by-sides out there, is the fact that the dirt bikes are still going to show up regardless. Now, in the last 3 weeks, we have had at least 4 or 5 dirt bikes in my path. And not 1 or 2 of them at a time, like 4 or 5 of them at a time. So I've gone and checked my south fence, where they've come in. I've walked that fence, I've driven that fence, I've done everything I possibly can. The only spot I can find is where there's a gully and the fence wire has been tightened and has pulled the post out of the ground. So it's sitting up about 4 or 5 feet. Now, when you get off the side-by-side and go and check that, you can see where they've dragged their dirt bikes under the fence to come and ride in my pasture. The other problem I have is when you drive by Albert and Diane's place, when we have a fire ban, why is there no common sense already used that we have to post this to these people? My economic life lives in that farm. You guys want to come in, you got to ride your little bikes and do whatever and have your recreation on the weekends. My life revolves around what goes on in that farm. You guys want to do this, that's fine. You come and talk to me when my farm is burning to the ground, because we both know you can have spark arresters on your bikes, you can have fire extinguishers, all that. Where do you think the dust lands? On top of the muffler. What happens then? You have an amber. It lands on the ground. It lands in dry grass, and pine needles. Take your pick. I was in the middle of that fire last spring with a tractor and a disc, trying to save everybody else's house. Do you know why I was down there? Because if that damn thing jumped the highway, guess where it was headed? Right into my farm. Every ounce of what I have done is in that farm. You guys want it as a weekend project, or, you know, it's our recreation, or you get some of your members or some of the people, well, it's our right because it's Crown land. It's not. There is at least in that 5-mile tract, going from the Trans-Canada Highway up past the rail bed, is all bush and muskeg and swamp, and you take your pick of things. It's pasture land. Why is it pasture land? Because they can't farm it, because it's rolly, it's hilly, it's take your pick of landscape. So your problem is now you can't fight a fire in a spot unless you have water bombers, or you have all-wheel drive trucks, or take your pick of things which you need to get in there to get to this. But you're going to sit there and you guys are going to tell me that everything will be fine. That's fine. My family home is there. My parents' family home is there. My neighbors who have been there for 35, 40 years are there. And it's bush. It's all bush. I don't even like taking my own side-by-side out in that summer, last summer, because for fear of fire. I walked my fences. I didn't drive, I walked. And you know what? Even on the weekends, I still heard quads and dirt bikes out there. I phoned the RCMP and said, who's liable for this shit? The moment that place goes up, where do I go? I have nowhere to go, because I'll guarantee you, fire can move faster than I can get cattle out. I can't load 150 cows on cattle pots in 10 minutes to get them out of there. But I will guarantee you that fire coming north with a 15 or even 30-kilometer-an-hour wind is going to consume that a whole lot faster than I can move them. So yeah, you have got into a complete hornet's nest of people. We, 15 years ago, very seldomly ever heard of dirt bike out. Now you go by there on a weekend, it looks like a Walmart parking lot of frickin' ATVs. Not one of them cares. You stop and talk to them, and they're out zipping up and down the road in their dirt bikes and their quads as fast as they can get it. Why? Because they got to show up to their buddies. All it takes is one guy that's a dickhead out there, has a cigarette in his mouth, a beer in a cozy, and goes into the grass.
No, I agree, yeah. And that's,
there goes my farm.
Those guys are going to be in there whether we're...
It doesn't, but that's, the thing is you guys, who's going to pay the liability? You guys have $5 million. Like Taylor said, you're not going to touch sweet bugger all in his yard.
Yeah, no, that's fair, yeah.
So, this is what you guys are contending with, and you're 27 members. There's more people out there on the weekends and after work than you guys have members. And you know what's going to happen? Here's the thing, but you're not listening, Chad. Here's the thing. The moment they leave, like when that fire happened last spring, one of the farmers from the area was at the corrals, keeping the fire at bay. He told me that 25 quads went by him. They waited for the smoke to clear, and they drove by. One out of that 25 stopped asking if he needed help. We had people from Oberon and Brookdale area down there with tractors and discs to try and put it out. They were the closest people with equipment hooked together, other than me.
Yeah, well, like I said before in the start of the meeting, that fire was started by a target shooter, but regardless... Like,
it doesn't matter, Chad, whether it was started by a target shooter or not. A fire is a fire is a fire. It doesn't matter. But a running engine will get hot.
Yeah, and people are going to be riding in there, like whether we're in there or not, and we're trying to do something to help that, right?
It's not going to help.
Promoting the area is not helping us.
Yeah. The promotion of your club in that area has exasperated the amount of ATV traffic in there, though, and you need to you should be able to understand that.
Yeah.
With your small membership group, people join your Facebook page and then see the maps, and they, well, I don't need to buy a membership. Why would I pay $20 or $30, whatever the membership fee is? I can just go ride the trail anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really exponentially gained access, and like people know about this area now that never ever would have known about it before. Wouldn't have been in there before, right? I know you keep saying those people will be there regardless, but probably not 50% of them.
You guys mentioned a couple times, I think, that you were going to contact Crown people that were supposed to be at this meeting. Is there a way that we could get their reaction and say what they're saying about this and all that stuff? Like, can we say in 30 days, is that reasonable to put something on your website that these people could go? Because I'd like to, let's get the people involved that, you know, made some of these decisions, and they, you know, like, there's no use coming to a meeting, hearing all these people and not.
So one of the things that we looked at doing is those sheets that I kind of pointed out earlier when everyone was registering. Basically what's happened, especially with Crown Lands, as we don't have a representative here, I've asked that, or he has actually asked that any sort of concern to do with that be forwarded on to him. And what I want to do, especially with the registrations, and I know there's quite a number of people that aren't able to attend tonight, they have forms as well. So if you could send those in, what I want to do is have an informational package prepared and sent out to anyone who was here this evening with comments for, you know, specific to the stakeholders that can provide comments. Again, this is a provincial circular. It was sent out to a lot of different provincial agencies. And again, we want those type of feedback questions to be provided by those provincial entities, right? So if there is someone, a question from Crown Lands, I can't speak to it, the club can't speak to it, but they can. So we want to have those sent in, and then we can provide information. Again, this is why we had you guys register, so that we can provide information after the fact.
So this feedback that people submit is going to go to the provincial?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, you know, we'll take the information and the comments that were provided. There was a series of, if you weren't necessarily for the project, you know, give me a reason why and what your concerns were, and then we can go through it. And what I can do from a planning district side of things is I can send out these comments. These are concerns that were raised by community members within the planning district in regards to this general permit that was issued. And then again, see if we can get some feedback from them.
Perhaps it's better if the community itself submits this information to the provincial government that authorized these trails, because it would seem redundant to provide you with the information that would ultimately be detrimental to your own plans.
Well, again, from the Cypress Planning District side of things, we are an unbiased third party. We're here because we felt it was an appropriate avenue for the community members to speak with the ATV Association. Again, having it presented from us in a sense of we have no jurisdiction in this, but we want to provide information to the community.
So you are a third party that would be presenting this information to the government?
So we were, the Cypress Planning District, as the development side of the three communities involved with the planning district, received the initial application for comment. So that was provided in the October 30th of 2020. So we provided comment in a sense because we are a provincial agency, or not a provincial agency, but we are a commenting agent for these type of provincial circulars. So in this sense, I have reached out to the stakeholders through many months of conversations with them. Again, knowing how the municipality felt, how the association felt, as well as how individual landowners, because we at one point in time required a conditional use order as a condition from the Cypress Planning District. So, you know, I have had those communications with them. Now, again, I invited as many members as I could. You know, again, for whatever reasons, they're not able to attend. So I did express to them that we would have abilities to provide them comments and concern. You're more than welcome to approach Crown Lands now. I will say Crown Lands has changed their title. I cannot remember what their provincial title is at this point in time. But by all means, if you have concerns, reach out to them. Because this is a general permit related through Crown Lands.
What do you think the odds of them reversing?
Sorry, I spoke with the Crown Land, the guy that handled the Crown Land, and basically he told me that there was a permit already issued to this club.
Yeah.
And that was it, basically done deal, no consultation to the leaseholders or anybody. And I know you don't, but I'm just speaking to everybody that's here, that I did speak with that individual.
Yeah, and we have had a change of the representation from Crown Lands in the area. So our original contact person is no longer with that group. He has moved on to a different position. And I was unaware of that, otherwise I would have been contacting the new gentleman directly. But again, without it being something that we have jurisdiction over, you know, there's only so much we can do, and I appreciate everyone's frustrations and concerns. But again, we just want to provide information back and forth.
What you made forward comments on this proposal on behalf of North Cypress, Langford, and Carberry. On behalf of the stakeholders, I assume. You sent comments in on this proposal for the permit for these?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you said?
The only application that we could apply to this from the Cypress Planning District from a zoning standpoint was that if it was going to be associated with private lands, they would require a conditional use order for the establishment of a recreational trail within the agricultural designated area. So that was a condition. Now again, we had a list of parcels that were associated with private land or private ownership. And we had gone through and I had individually flagged them all and said that if this was going to continue in these areas, they needed to approach the municipality to apply for a conditional use order for the recreational trail. We needed to hold an open, a public hearing for a conditional use order and notify landowners in the adjacent areas. Now, with that being said, the Westman ATV Association was not comfortable applying for that conditional use order on top of personally owned land. We had to speak directly to that landowner. Now, that landowner had basically said that they were not interested in applying for that conditional use order. So the club or the association had to look at alternatives for that location. Because again, the municipality was not interested in applying a conditional use order on top of someone else's land through an applicant instead of the registered landowner. So if the club and the association applies for this permit, which they have, and the general permit has been issued, and it does not affect privately owned land or municipal land, the Cypress Planning District no longer has authority on those areas. We can't speak or apply conditions to crown land or park land or anything like that. So we could simply touch the small parcel of land that was being associated with privately owned land.
So it's still, my feeling is we got backdoored on this.
With that being said, the application comes through And we've had this application, I think, like I said, the initial application, the circular for comment was issued October 30th, 2020. So it has been with the commenting agent since the 30th of October. Now, generally, we could see upwards of 5 to 10 of these provincial circulars from the planning district side of things without having any requirement on us to notify anyone. So these are our comments from a zoning standpoint. Now that a lot of the applications we see don't go anywhere. You know, the permit is either denied through one of the other provincial agencies. We're a very small aspect of the provincial circulars.
I have one more question. What's the benefit for the community? What is a benefit?
Yeah, so by organizing the area, like by having a set slot to unload, by having these trails marked, so if there's an issue, it's easier to identify where you are, maintain the trails, like I said.
You don't have money to maintain the trails.
We have partnerships with people, with businesses in Brandon, we do fundraisers.
Yeah, so they can come out and destroy our countryside.
Not destroy, not trying to,
Well, pretty much.
trying to maintain.
It's pretty much done already.
We're trying to reduce the impact. I know it sounds funny, but
Why have you not come to?
You're not going to keep them on trails.
Why are you going to Brandon?
well, we can. We're open to whoever wants to help us. We're open.
I run a business right next to this stuff, so.
Yeah, and we're definitely open. Like I live in Brandon. I've approached people there. Like any other businesses are open. We're definitely open to that.
And some of our members are actually a part of that business, so they use their time to run that business's equipment, which saves cost on the club for maintenance and stuff. So that's why those businesses have stepped forward and said, hey, we will help because one of your members is one of your members and they have the authorization to use our equipment.
And we haven't gone out big time and pushed for sponsorship until we were positive that we had dedicated trails and we were established. Until then, we were going to go and approach businesses and say, hey, you want to give us some money? When you're asking us like, well, what are we giving money for? And it's like, well, you know, so we can have a plan before we approach businesses.
I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm going to ask you one more question. Why weren't the stakeholders asked what they thought?
So we went through Crown Lands and we...
Yeah, you backloaded us, so that part I understand.
So
But why were we not invited in on any of this?
So
It's not our property, I
No, for
understand
sure,
that, but it is our home.
Definitely.
We have serious concerns about environmental, fire, just people snooping in our driveways and all that don't belong here.
No, and I can definitely appreciate that.
We have high theft.
We do.
Seasonally,
Carberry, North
but-
Cypress, Langford has a higher theft rate than I was even aware of now. With that being said, part of the provincial circular process is that it's sent through for comment through commenting agents. It's not part of the process, unfortunately, to notify these types of landowners or adjacent community members. Now,
Because they know what we would say.
and again, the Westman ATV Club and working with ATV Manitoba, this is the process to establish a recreational trail within the province. So this is a set process.
What's wrong with the walking trail?
Well, nothing. There's nothing wrong with the walking trail. But
I
again,
don't think we'd have a lot of problem
this
with
is
that.
an application for a recreational vehicle.
So can I apply for a walking trail and override your application?
Well, again, this
the
is
trails-
a general
It's not
permit.
restricted access,
Yeah.
so like this could be a walking trail. Yeah, you can walk on it, you can do whatever you want.
So if I establish it as a walking trail, then I can also put rules on what's allowed on it as well? Or perhaps an equestrian trail. Can I then also put rules on it that apply to me and my equestrian friends?
They already have trails set up in other.
No, but I want your trail.
This is a general permit that's been issued already, so you would need to approach Crown Lands and their development for those type of applications. And I can't speak to that because that's never been a
Well,
situation
if
I've
they're
been in.
granted to one without any real explanation as to the need for it, then why should any of us not be able to apply for a trail
This
permit?
meeting went on in the first place, when the Crown Lands are the biggest stakeholders who gave us permission. How come we can even hold this meeting and no representative here from the province?
Well, with that being said, there is no real requirement for this meeting to happen. This was something that the Westman ATV Association and the municipality felt was something that needed to happen. It's not a formal requirement for their permit at any point in time for them to have these type of informational open houses.
As
And
planning, aren't your job to notify them to have them here?
it's out of my jurisdiction. This isn't a permit. I have anything other than a comment. on.
Rachel, you did ask for the cut, right?
Yeah, so one of the things that happened when
They just didn't come, and you already know why.
Yeah, so what happened with this whole process is we provided comment, and until such a time that the permit becomes an active or taken from the proposal to an actual active permit, it is no different than any other permit that is tentatively applied for. So when it came to Cypress planning, we provided comment like we do on many other provincial circulars, and then it gets left. And unfortunately, you know, maybe Cypress planning needs to develop a better policy for these type of permits. They're not our permits. We provide comment. We have no authority on this. So when it came to the municipality for discussion, we realized that there was going to be some potential for concern. Now, this isn't the actual date that we wanted to have this on was earlier. But again, with flooding and all sorts of other stakeholder concerns, we had to push it back. So unfortunately, yes, we had a very short notice window. We had, and we're, you know, again, the permit was granted out of our jurisdiction, out of the municipality's jurisdiction. It was granted, and now we're at the point where we felt, Planning District, the ATV Association, and the municipality felt that there needs to be more community involvement and community discussion. And we figured that out pretty quick when we realized that there was a conditional use order that could tentatively be placed over top of someone's privately owned land that they weren't comfortable with. So one of the processes, like I said, a conditional use order can be applied for by an applicant for an association, not necessarily ATV, but for an association, and be approved by the municipality without that landowner's permission. It is a conditional use. It is a use placed on top of the property. So we knew that wasn't going to be a situation we could proceed with. There was too many landowners and adjacent neighboring properties that were concerned with this. We weren't going to go that route, obviously. So we knew that we needed to get community involvement, and this was the best case scenario. Have an open house, an informational session where we could have these type of dialogues. Again, it was already approved through Crown Lands. It's a general permit. Those permits are accessible online through Crown Lands. You can access all the permits that are there. But there isn't a set process on how these needed to happen. And again, we're trying to do our due diligence to get community members involved and have these open discussions. We can definitely appreciate from a planning side of things that there is a real mix of agricultural, recreational, and lands that, you know, that we need to be careful with. And I can speak that the club, it feels your concerns. We knew that this was going to be an issue. But then again, the lands that this trail is being placed through, it's an existing trail. It's been active for many years. They're looking at establishing that as an association for maintenance and specifications on how to deal with the types of issues that you guys as community members are presenting. But then again, it's an active trail that has been there. Now, everyone can appreciate that just because it's an active trail through an association now doesn't mean that their members are the ones causing problems. And it doesn't mean that their members aren't the ones causing problems. But they are here, again, listening to all your concerns and comments, trying to figure out how they can best approach this now, because it is an approved permit. And again, if Road 88 West is not being opened up for a road allowance for development, there is no involvement from the municipality. So if that doesn't proceed, then there really is, unfortunately, and I'm going to say this, and I struggle with it as well, there is no need for an open house or public engagement because it's not land that we have jurisdiction over.
That was what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
So what was the point?
The point of the open house
Yeah.
is to try to get communication going between an association that doesn't necessarily have a foothold in the community or the municipality and the new members of the community that feel strongly about it. Now,
But at the end of the day, what was the point?
For the discussion
For
that we're having this evening.
What was the point? If it was a foregone conclusion, what was the point?
I know speaking from the club side, we wanted to hear you guys' concerns. I was hoping to get some spots that we could focus more on as far as things to watch out for, like you mentioned garbage and things like that. Just the problem areas where those issues are occurring, so we could, as a club, we could put more resources, like look more into those
I
areas.
commend you for that, but at the end of the day, all of these people took 2 hours out of their day to come and express their concerns for what's ultimately a foregone conclusion, is what you're saying. Is that correct? You are ultimately going to do what you want. You've got your permit.
Technically, yes,
I
the
guess
permit
we'll
has been issued.
With the response that we hear today here, now council, listening to all this, council as a whole could write the government of Manitoba and ask some questions, right?
So,
Until we know the exact, because each councillor talks to certain people and hears about this person's upset, this person doesn't mind it, you know what I mean? So now that we know there's many different people from different areas of municipalities and rural residential areas, town, things like that. So now council could bring it up at one of our meetings and maybe go forward with it. And that's what I would say the outcome of this meeting will be.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Quite honestly as well, the province of Virginia out of quality, to put it bluntly, and no one was consulted. No people got even consulted in the first place. This meeting wasn't intended to put those people up there to lynch them. The meeting was to try to create a rapport between the landowners and members. And even though you don't want it, I get it. I'm not promoting it, I'm not calling it down. They're there and they're willing to police it to their best abilities. They're trying to be the good guy. And that's why they're there. They're not there because they're the ones that spin tires and create havoc. They're there because they're being the good guys who want to talk to the neighbors to get to know you. We got no warnings at council.
And no benefits. The first screen I saw was the benefits to the community, and it went over so fast I couldn't even read it.
Actually, one of the benefits from having this meeting is it's drawn such a focus on what the Crown Land people have done and all that stuff. The planning district, these guys and all that stuff know that. So there's going to be some feedback to that. And say, like if we want to put in change anything, we have to have public hearings, we have to, this, and this is just some level of government. I mean, just what the hell already, And we have questioned it over the years. So now hopefully when the feedback goes to the Crown people, that, maybe they should adhere to some of the rules that the municipalities have to, and everything too, Anyways.
But it was a dialogue with the ATV club and Rachel, council asked for this meeting, literally to bring these people up to speed, so if you understood what was going on, where the position was of the province, but the position was the ATV club. It wasn't made to cause bad feelings, it wasn't made to cause a venting session. It was literally to create rapport between you two. All the community members, with the few ATV people that are here, willing to try. And to have as many members of this community, from fire to police, to council, to the members of the ATV club, unfortunately, the province never showed to try to take questions and figure this out. Without these topics of conversation, nothing's going to get fixed. Or at least, nothing's going to be to a common good.
Right. Yeah, like you said, you guys have spent an hour and half of your time here now. Are you guys okay with calling it? I think we got the feel for the crowd, I think. So, yeah, if you have, if anybody wants to point out some areas in the map before you go that you're concerned about, especially, I'd be glad to. Yeah, I'll bring this newer one over. There you go.
good.